You don't have any Stephen King?
You've got the shinin.
You mean shiny.
Shh. You wanna get sued?
It's just your fate. You're that geeky Stephen King kid. There's one of you in every school.
Okay, that's him, that's Cujo, that's Cujo.
I was thinking along the lines of no TV and no beer make Homer something.
Oh, crazy.
Don't mind if I do!
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast celebrating the work of Stephen King, hosted by two lifelong constant readers. We do non-spoiler and spoiler reviews of King's published work and take a critical look at his film and television adaptations as well. We also discuss the latest King news and check in with each other on our ongoing King obsessions. It's the podcast where all things serve the King. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com. You can also like the Facebook page at Facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter and every other level of social media at Tower Junkies Pod. And if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for a ridiculous amount of bonus content spread across all of obsessiveviewer.com's various podcasts. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and I'm excited for tonight's episode, sincerely, because joining me, as usual, is that cheap dime store hood, Tiny. How's it going, Tiny?
Good.
Nice. I've been really looking forward to saying that because of the sincerely and anyway. Yeah. How you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good. Yeah. We had a nice chat on Patreon about a variety of things. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to be of interest to anyone to listen to it, but yeah, you can check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. How'd you feel about our Patreon recording, Tiny?
Always good.
Nice.
Yeah, sentimental and funny. And
yes.
A little bit malignant.
Nice.
I couldn't help it.
Nice. Oh my God. That's so great. Yeah. Okay. So
now you have to explain that.
Yes. Thank you. So
you're welcome.
So there is a viral clip of a woman on like a TV show or a reality show or something where she is asked to try a Jamaican accent, but she fumbles it so severely and it sounds like gibberish because she says like "malignant." And I just recently saw the movie Malignant. And in my head, I keep saying it as malignant. And it has made Tiny laugh very much throughout this evening. And now this was his turn.
Yeah.
So that was really good. But I will talk a little bit more about that here in a few, but just to run down what we're doing today. Mm-hmm. So today on the podcast, it is part 3 of our year-long 4-part series on King's 1982 novella collection, Different Seasons. So our year-long project is to examine each novella and adaptation where applicable and free of horrifying criminal activity. We're releasing each ep on the first day or thereabouts of the story's subtitles respective season. Too long, didn't listen, I'm insane. So to recap, in March, at the start of spring, we covered Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, and Frank Darabont's amazing 1994 adaptation, The Shawshank Redemption. That was in Tower Junkies episode 56. Then, around the start of summer, a couple days late, we covered the novella Apt Pupil and elected not to cover Bryan Singer's adaptation for reasons outlined in that episode, which is Tower Junkies episode 63. And so now on Tower Junkies episode 70, probably. Because it's coming out next week. Yes, so 70. Episode 70. To kick off autumn and our own fall from innocence, we're discussing King's phenomenal ode to childhood, growing up, and that fleeting feeling of childhood friendship unmarred by the drama inherent to our own individual coming of age. It's the Body And in addition, we'll be discussing Rob Reiner's seminal 1986 adaptation, Stand By Me. All that is to come, but we have news and check-ins to attend to, Tiny. Yes. So, I'm going to get us kicked off with a couple of news items, and then we'll get into check-ins and everything. Two reasonable-sized news things broke. So
Stories?
Stories. There you go. So the first piece of news that I have is, funny enough, it was a day after I recorded the previous episode of the podcast with Kim C from the Year of Underrated Stephen King, in which we talked about short fiction from Stephen King. Like a day or two after that, Stephen King released a new short story. Yeah, so he released Red Screen, which is an interesting it's an interesting thing for him to do because it was released through Humble Bundle, which is at humblebundle.com. And that website is apparently it's a vessel for charity fundraising. And what they do is they publish things and they have things up for sale that all the proceeds go to charity. So Stephen King published an ebook of his short story Red Screen, which is unavailable anywhere else, on Humble Bundle. And it's a pay what you want because all of it goes to the ACLU. And so he has this posted. It was originally, so this happened at the time of this recording, like a week and a half ago, I think. Thereabouts. And like it was said like, oh, this is only going to be on sale for 1 week. And like that's all well and good. So that 1 week ended as of this recording a couple days ago. Or I think last night. And it's weird because looking on the website on Humble Bundle, it seems like it's still going. So basically, right now as we're recording this on actually, okay, maybe I'm misreading it, but basically it has like a countdown. So it says offer ends in 6 days, 16 hours, 6 minutes, and we're recording this September 16th. But basically, you can go on to this website, pay them a minimum of $5 or however much you want above that. And everything all the money spent goes directly to the ACLU. And it's just really interesting. I'll just read from the site. Red hot off the press, a Stephen King exclusive short story, Red Screen. We've teamed with legendary author Stephen King for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, presenting Red Screen, a never-before-published work exclusively available through Humble Bundle. In this unsettling short story, a cop interrogates a deranged plumber who just murdered his wife, only to discover something far more insidious. Pay what you want and support the ACLU. And as of this recording, on September 16th at 9:52 p.m., 17,484 purchases have been made.
Damn.
Of this. And what's really neat is that it's an ebook, and it's like a 5-page short story. It's a very short, brief short story. But it is DRM free, so like you buy it, you own it. It doesn't it's compatible with anything you want to read it on. You get a download of it as an EPUB file, a .mobi file, and a PDF file. So there's versatility there. But it's interesting. So like I said, 17,484 copies have been sold, and so far, assuming that it's still for sale, which is so weird because it was supposed to be 1 week only. But anyway, it says this bundle has raised $137,432.21 for charity.
Dang.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Good cause, ACLU.
Oh, totally. And funny. Well, not funny, but related to that, I actually, just because it's for charity and everything, I obviously bought a copy and I read it and everything, and I went ahead and recorded a review of it on Patreon. But here's the rub. I made that Patreon recording free. So like, if you go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, you don't have to become a patron. You can check that out. You can download that, listen to it and everything. So if you bought Red Screen and want to hear my thoughts on it, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and grab that episode.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about Red Screen here in a second.
We will.
Yes, but I do have one other piece of news that I don't know if I shared this with you, Tiny, but you are aware that there's a new Salem's Lot movie being made.
Yes.
Yes. So that movie, I don't remember who all is. Well, we've talked about it, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't remember who's directing it, but it is scheduled for release, I think September 9th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And I have already sent you just a ridiculous like roadmap for next year for how we're going to cover it.
Right.
Which may or may not happen. We'll see. But a tweet happened that the actor William Sadler, who is a very notable character actor. He appeared in The Mist.
He's a King veteran.
The Mist, The Shawshank Redemption, and he's been in other stuff too, non-King related, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's a really great character actor.
Yeah.
He tweeted and said, oh, first day filming on Salem's Lot. And it's like, oh, okay, so he's going to be in Salem's Lot.
Nice.
And like everyone kind of went like, oh shit, okay. William Sadler's returning to King.
That's awesome.
And like, I can't get this out of my mind, but if he's not playing Father Callahan, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who. I mean, he could potentially be Kurt Barlow.
Yeah.
Or Straker or Staker.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, William Sadler as Father Callahan, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's perfect for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then somebody could adapt The Dark Tower again.
Yes.
And he could be in that too.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah.
God, that would be so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it hasn't been like confirmed like what role he's playing, but it's just really exciting to see, him back in the Stephen Kingiverse.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I think that's it that I have for news. Except for that's it that I have for news. Recently, the novel, within the last day or so, celebrated its 35th anniversary from publication.
Wow.
So pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason I just thought, like, can you imagine if we read that in 1986? Like, that would be pretty impossible.
Impossible for me. I wasn't alive yet.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And me, I was but a wee lad.
A wee chap.
A wee baby. I was a newborn.
Right.
So anyway, all right, that's it for King news. Do you want to go into Stephen King check-ins?
Yes, I do.
All right, and I have 3 check-ins, Tiny.
Well, fucking course you do.
Yeah. Well, heavy is the head that wears the crown. No.
I actually have one. Like,
Nice.
I finally actually have one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll do mine,
Okay.
and then we can just have yours. You can throw in your little cute little thing.
Cute little thing.
Yeah.
Cute little thing. Yeah, fuck you.
Really quick check-ins. First, still listening to Under the Dome. Really great. Just freaking love that.
Sweet.
And I also finished rereading Night Shift for a secret Patreon project that's launching January 2nd.
Super secret.
Yes, super secret, although I think I've already announced what it is somewhere, everywhere. But yeah, for $2 patrons, you're in for a weekly surprise next year, hopefully. And I also wanted to share this. I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast, but I recently got my hands on a first edition hardcover of It.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So I went to Half Price Books just on a whim, and yeah, I saw It, and like I own like 3 copies of It, and I was just like, oh, you know what, I don't have this hardcover, and then I was like, you know what, I wonder, and I don't really get like hung up on first editions or anything like that, but I was just kind of curious, and what's really neat is like on StephenKing.com, there's like a PDF that you can have where it's like identifying first editions.
Oh, okay.
And so like it's like a spreadsheet or something, not a spreadsheet, but it's like a document that has like all of the identifying markers of first editions. So I got my hands on an It first edition.
Cool.
for like $20. So
Nice.
that is mine. And it's in good condition too. I did not bring it out from the bookcase. And I don't want to edit this down even more. So if you want to see it, Tiny, you are SOL.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are my quick check-ins. Also, just want to mention once again, check out the last episode of the podcast and my guest appearance on the Year of Underrated Stephen King. Super fun times chatting with Kim C about all things Stephen King. And Tiny, when you listened, well, you haven't listened to Tower Junkies episode yet.
No, not yet.
But you did listen to my appearance on the Year of Underrated Stephen King.
Yes.
Did you feel like I was cheating on you in terms of podcasting?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult at first.
Good.
But Jesus.
I mean,
I'm glad you were in despair.
yes.
No, it was great. I mean, she's awesome. So
Yeah. It was really nice because when she posted that, our friend and listener Andy, he just like he messaged me on Facebook and he was just like, "Oh, look, someone's interview just popped up on my podcast app." I was like, "Yeah, I'm really excited for people to listen to that episode."
Sweet.
So anyway, yeah, check that out. And yeah, Tiny, what's your cute little your little tiny little check in there?
You know, single solitary check-in.
Yeah. Your little carry-on. What you got in the little handbag there?
Jesus.
Okay.
Are you done?
What about that little coin purse there, Tiny?
God damn it.
Okay, sorry.
So I actually read Red Screen.
Nice.
The little one-off publishing thing from Stephen King. So yeah, I read that. It was a fun little story.
Nice.
Yeah, I almost I wonder if he had that idea floating around in his head for a while and he was like, well, I'll just knock this one out real quick for charity, because I feel like it was a little rushed. Like I feel like that's something he could have dove deeper into.
Oh, totally.
And expanded and had it be more of I don't know about like a novel, but
right.
More of a bigger, longer story.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. It wasn't difficult to see where it was going.
Right.
But that's fine. I mean, I was curious how it was going to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Same here. Yeah, I liked it. I talked about it on Patreon, so check that out, guys.
Yeah.
Because it's free. You guys can check out that free thing.
It's
for
free.
Patreon. Yeah. Did you listen to that?
I know I have not.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance.
Yeah, I ramble for a while on that.
Well,
but
that's how it is.
yeah. Speaking of Patreon, though, by the way, that is up there for free. But also at the $2 level, I am doing episode reviews of Chapel Wait on Epics, which is based on Jerusalem's Lot, the short story from Night Shift. That is the prequel to Salem's Lot. So I want to make sure that I say that here. So if you guys want to check out Patreon, go to Patreon, pledge $2 per month. You get access to those episodes. I'm kind of doing it at a slower pace. So like there are 5 episodes that are released, like available on Epics, but I've reviewed 3 of them, and then I'm going to hopefully get the other 2 and get up to date here soon. But the reason why I say that is because I am pretty sure that no one on Patreon is watching Chapel Wait. So I just want to say, if you guys are watching Chapel Wait and you're interested in hearing me talk about it, go ahead and pledge $2 per month. You can just you can do like what a couple of people have done and just pledge $2, listen to the episodes, and then delete the like cancel it, and you won't be charged the next month. It's no big deal. But I'm just sitting there thinking like, this is literally me recording into the void. So if you're a patron, check out Chapel Wait and then listen to me talk about it.
Yeah.
Or if you're not a patron and you're watching Chapel Wait, join Patreon. Yeah, which also, final thing, and then we can move on, but I did set up a tag on Patreon where you can click Stephen King and it'll filter all of our freaking hundreds of Patreon crap, and just have all of the Stephen King stuff. So that includes the $5 commentary tracks I've done for In the Tall Grass, It Chapter 2, The Shining, Dr. Sleep, all that stuff. And then also episode reviews of Lacey's Story and Chapel Wait and everything. And then book reviews of Billy Summers and red screen and everything. So
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, check that out. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Okay. So I have one other section to get through. Okay. Before we get into our reviews, man, I hope that this isn't dragging it out too much. But as we have been doing kind of infrequently recently, I have a Stephen King podcast or podcast Quartet Corner segment that I'm really excited about because this is very unique and interesting. So there is a new YouTube series that's launching soon in October called The Stephen Kingdom, hosted by David McCracken. And according to his Twitter account and everything, it will be a deep dive into the literary and cultural significance of the works of one Stephen Edwin King, coming to YouTube this Halloween. I'll put a link in the show notes, of course. But the interesting aspect of this is that I've talked to this guy.
Nice.
I've interviewed him on Obsessive Viewer. He had I forget what roles he did. He was an actor and writer, director, and producer on a film that was at Heartland Film Festival in 2018 called Bullitt County. And he's from Evansville. And like he was at the red carpet and everything. He and his producing partner. That like I talked to them for like 10 minutes about their movie because I enjoyed their movie quite a bit. It's this interesting like period drama about these kind of Stephen King in a way. It's about a group of friends who kind of, I think they reunite and then they go, it's like set in the 70s, I think, and they go on a Kentucky bourbon trail or something because they heard that there is buried bootlegger treasure. And so drama ensues and everything, and it leads to some pretty interesting and dark places. It is available to stream, I think, on IMDb TV, which is free, and you can get it through Amazon Prime. But it's called Bullitt County, and David McCracken is now doing a YouTube series on Stephen King. So super excited to check that out when it launches next month.
Cool.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to hear my interview with him and his producing partner with Bullitt County, you can listen to Obsessive Viewer episode 253. So, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So, are you ready, Tiny?
Yes.
Okay, you're not going to delay this any longer with your nonsense.
Well, I have another check-in.
Oh, do you?
No, I don't. I don't.
Got an extra nickel in that little coin purse there, Tiny?
God damn it.
That's mean. That's like...
It is.
And I know, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm hurt.
Yeah. No, I'm hurt. Okay. I'm joking. I'm probably going to keep that in. So just for reference, I play music when I have an edit that I want to make. So that's the running joke here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So today on the podcast, finally, we're going to be talking about The Body, the novella, the third novella in different seasons, which was published in 1982. And yeah, so... and then we're also going to do a review of Stand By Me. So The Body, per StephenKing.com, or you know what? I'll just read it from Wikipedia. So, okay. The story takes place during the summer of 1960 in the fictional town of Castle Rock, Maine, after a boy from Chamberlain, Maine, named Ray Brower, disappears and is presumed dead. 12-year-old Gordy LaChance and his three friends, Chris Chambers, Teddy Duchamp, and Vern Tessio, set out on a quest to find his body along the railroad tracks. After telling their parents they will be camping out because they consider it to be a rite of passage. So... this is... oh, I didn't look that up. Dang. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so this was published, of course, in 1982. I'm suddenly realizing that I did not finish my notes on here, so I'm kind of freewheeling it here. Okay. So first up, before we get into our conversation about The Body, I think what we'll do is... we'll do a non-spoiler and spoiler review for the novella, And then when we go to talk about Stand By Me, we'll just do spoilers because it would be kind of silly to do a non-spoiler and spoiler review for a movie after we've just spoiled the actual story.
Sure. Okay.
So we're going to do a non-spoiler review for The Body and then a spoiler review. And before we do that, Tiny, what is your history with The Body and Stand By Me? Because last I checked, you didn't really have much history with it.
Yeah, I had no history with it. I had read of the different seasons, the novellas. I had read Apt Pupil before, but I remember it was like an individual novella.
Right.
It wasn't it wasn't the collection. So that's how I guess I kind of avoided the other stories in that collection. So yeah, I never got around to reading The Body. I mean, I basically knew the story,
Right.
and the movie is so popular. I think culturally, I think the movie has more of a lasting impact. Sort of like Shawshank Redemption,
Right.
and that's fine because the movie's great. But I hadn't watched the movie either, and I don't know, for whatever reason I had just never chosen to read it. I don't know why. I had nothing against it, but because it's so popular, I feel like I had already read it because I knew what happened, and but I'm glad that I think the part that was most surprising to me, that I liked the most or whatever, is the fact that the relationship between the boys, and especially between Gordy and Chris, was just incredibly touching, and that's something that I wasn't quite aware that it was
Interesting.
that was such a focal point of both the book and the movie. I didn't realize that. I mean, I knew obviously there's going to be some camaraderie and some things to connect to, as someone who grew up with a pack of friends and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of a fun little surprise. Some nice depth to the book that I didn't know was there. So yeah, I don't really have any kind of history with it. This is I popped my cherry on this one.
Nice.
My body cherry.
It's
That doesn't sound right at all. Shit. That's gonna be a new thing.
It is. I'm gonna
And I'm all for it.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
funny.
gonna be as brief, like I'm not gonna do it as frequently, because if I did, it would just turn into be just something super malignant. Okay.
Jesus.
So to get back on track, what I find really interesting about that, what you just said, your history with it and everything, is that, especially with the movie, I'm still really surprised that you had never seen the movie, just because, like, I remember, when we were teenagers and in like our early 20s, like, you were very much like you didn't have a life.
Yeah.
No, like, you would just watch movies just as I forget, I don't know what word I'm trying to use, but it's like you didn't have any I don't know if I'd say prejudgments, but you weren't picky at all. You would just grab movies and watch them and everything.
Yep.
And I'm just surprised that Stand By Me wasn't like one of those movies, because it obviously has the pedigree and the history and the it's quite famous.
I avoided it because I wanted to read the book first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm one of those.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way.
Not with everything, but
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really interesting. My history, I say this like, oh yeah, The Body is a cornerstone of my reading or whatever. I read The Body for the first time, I think, in late 2020 when I had COVID.
Oh, wow.
Because that is when, I think that's when I picked up different seasons and just read it. Or that might have been before I got COVID, but I remember that I read different seasons. But with the movie, with Stand By Me, I mean, I've seen it over the years. I think I first saw it when I was a teenager, and then it's been one of those movies that I will revisit maybe like once every 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to say, spoiler for the movie review, but watching it this time, I'm like, why is this not on a constant rotation with me?
Yeah.
Like, why is that? Why have I only watched this X number of times over the last 15 years when I should have been watching it like 17 times over the last 15 years?
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll get all into that. For now, though, let's go into non-spoilers for The Body, the novella, and Tiny, kind of in overall words, broad terms, how did you feel about the novella of The Body?
I really, really loved it.
Nice.
I think it's funny that we're covering it for the fall segment because it is so inherently a summer story.
Yeah.
Especially like kind of an Indian summer wrapping up a summer kind of thing, because characters are constantly talking about how hot it is and stuff like that, and it's it's about the conclusion of all of the fun that you have with your friends over the summer without the burden of school, which is totally something I can relate to. I mean, I remember, it's funny, like, now in our mid-30s, thinking about like the time of like late May to late July or early August, it's 2.5, 3 months.
Yeah.
Like now it's 2.5, 3 months isn't a very long stretch of time, but like
Right.
I remember being a kid like in elementary school and like getting out of school, it's like that it felt like you had a year off. Like it just
I'm
felt
never
like
coming back.
Right. It's like I got so much time to do whatever I want, and I don't have to get up early for school. I don't have to do any of this crap.
Yes.
That feeling was just
the best.
I don't know that as an adult, I'm not sure that it's possible. I honestly don't think it's possible to have that kind of emotion as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have responsibilities.
Right.
I mean, you just do. Like,
even if like you're fortunate enough to have like a month's worth of PTO you can take.
Right.
Like there's still like, got to get up and walk the dog. You got to,
maybe when you retire.
Yeah.
Maybe. But even then, a lot of people continue working when they retire.
Oh, right. Oh, not me. No.
Or they don't have financial freedom or something.
Oh, probably me. So yeah.
Oh man. So
Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, please.
But that feeling is so potent and so unique, but it's also pretty universal. I mean, especially for Americans. But yeah, that sentiment just poured off the book, just poured off the pages, and I absolutely loved that. And, King he captured that sentiment so well.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely loved that. Yeah.
And not to get off on too much of a tangent right off the bat, but what I found really interesting. Do you mind if I go into
go for it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first, I'll just say this blanket statement. I honestly think that The Body and Stand By Me, for that matter, are just about the perfect coming of age story that I've interacted with as an art. It is just so perfect. The way that the characters rely on each other they're very friendly with, they're very good at like ribbing each other and everything, as kids are. But like that dependence, that bond that they have is so palpable throughout the entire story, and especially in the later parts of it, which we'll talk about in spoilers, where it's kind of this running thing where their parents and the adults of Castle Rock, they don't have any solid foundation with the kids. So the kind of onus of personal relationships and interpersonal relationships and guidance and just, growth and coming of age rests solely on the bond that is formed between these kids, among these kids. And it's just, like I said, it's just so palpable and just so beautifully told.
Yeah.
And man, it's just, it is just so good.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
One other, thing about it that's interesting is that it's a realistic aspect of it that's realistic, but it's also kind of heartbreaking, is how King mentions that their relationship with each other is so important and so, pure and based on such childlike wonderment, the friends you have when you're 12 and stuff like that. It's also so, like, I don't know if fleeting is the right word, but it almost never lasts. Like most, I mean, is there anyone from that you were friends with when you were between the ages of like 9 and 12 who you're still really good friends with?
No, you are my oldest friend.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're mine too. Yeah.
So we met in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think the middle school is a big, that broadens people's horizons so much that I feel like, they talk about it in the book. Getting ready to go to junior high is going to be different, and and he nails that perfectly well.
Yeah.
And I still have so many good memories of like friends that I had before 7th grade, but I don't even. I mean, I'm not even friends with a lot of those people on Facebook anymore. That's how different things are now.
Oh man.
Which is kind of a modern barometer, I guess.
Right.
Are you Facebook friends with them? And like several of them, no, I'm not even Facebook friends with them.
Man. Okay.
I couldn't tell you where they live, if they're married.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think about.
Man. You know what's crazy is like right now I'm just like my mind is blowing a little bit. Is that in 5th grade, we did not go to the same elementary school.
No,
so
we didn't.
I don't think you know this about me, and I don't know if I want to say it. But like, this is super cringy. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this.
Oh boy.
8.5 years of podcasting, this has never come up. In 5th grade, Mr. I don't remember his name. Was Goodwin?
No clue.
Okay, that was
we went to different schools. So
yeah, but Goodwin wasn't a junior high or high school teacher.
Then no, I don't remember.
Okay, Mr. Goodwin.
Okay,
his class, in 5th grade, like I don't know how it came up, but me and these 2 other students, were grouped together or something, and I think Mr. Goodwin said something like, "Oh, they're like the Three Stooges or something." And we ran with that.
Oh boy,
for the entire school year.
Oh boy.
We were the Three Stooges, Tiny.
Wow.
And I will say, we were our only friends.
Were you like in the halls going like, nyah, 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 or something like that? Like,
I think so. I think so. And the point that I'm getting at is I lost touch with them really. Like I stopped, like we just grew apart kind of. I mean, we just grew into different social circles and stuff in junior high and high school.
Yeah.
One of them is like went to high school with us and went to middle school with us, and I'm Facebook friends with him. I ran into him at the store once, and then like it was an awkward, like we didn't even really see each other or acknowledge each other or anything. But the other one, like this is the whole point that I'm making, is that the third, the Shemp of our group, he moved after 5th grade.
Okay.
And I can't remember his name.
Wow.
I can't remember really what he looked like. And I can't remember. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know. That was a tangent. So yeah.
You just had an influx of memories that you had to think about, or
it's something that I think about way more than I should because it is so cringy. But I felt like it was apt to bring up here on this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. Steven, if you're listening, it was fun. It was cool. I don't mean to Steven
I know who you're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So anyway, so yeah. But yeah, a very like a near perfect coming of age story. Mm-hmm. The dynamic between the characters is so great. And something that I really, really love, and it's something that is done in the movie as well, is that King puts in this vulnerability to all of the characters. And so much so that they become emotional. Like it, when you think of, and there's some of that here, but when you think of, kids, prepubescent kids, And just in general, like not even taking into account the time frame, but just in general, like young boys, like it is so ingrained in, our culture and everything that boys become men and, you can't have emotion. You can't, you've got to play sports. You've got to pretend to be one of the Three Stooges.
Don't be pussy.
Yeah.
Like in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the book.
Yeah.
And that does come up and everything, but the story just lets them be vulnerable with each other, and that is just such a powerful thing to communicate.
They all end up opening up at some point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean the scenes in the movie are just. Oh, we'll talk about that.
We will. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
So, since you were pretty unfamiliar, like obviously you know it from pop culture and everything. Were there elements of it that you weren't expecting? Like anything, like I'm kind of leading you toward this, but the leeches scene, did you know about that at all?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I knew about that. I think a lot of the big stuff I did, but again, the one that really surprised me, I don't think this is a spoiler, just how damaged almost each kid is.
Oh, yeah.
Of the four boys. They have their thing that's a big chip on their shoulder.
Right.
And that thing influences each character so much. I didn't realize there was that much depth to these characters.
Right.
Before I read the book or saw the movie. And I was pleasantly surprised by it because I think it just adds so many more layers to the onion that is this story.
Yeah.
And is remarkably satisfying. The direction that it causes the characters to go. That was a part that I was surprised by and didn't know about. But a lot of the big meaty parts of the story, them crossing the bridge with the train, and I think even like the junkyard dog, what was the dog's name?
Chopper,
sick balls. I knew that line, and the leeches scene, all that stuff. I think I pretty much had a reference that all that were significant parts of the story.
Nice.
But yeah, of course, the best part is the characters, and that's the part that I was there was a blind spot for me. I didn't have a lot of familiarity with.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I'm going to circle back to something that I was going to make a point of, and then I got sidetracked. But something that I kind of recognized in this reading of it and this viewing of the movie is that, to go back to talking about like my childhood and everything, I don't know if it's because I was so enamored with Stephen King at the time when I was a kid, or the idea of small town America. But like, I remember like trying to force in this idea that, Speedway is a small town. Because we lived in Speedway, Indiana.
Right.
May or may not still live there. But in Speedway, for all intents and purposes, is a pretty small town. It's got a big ass racetrack that thousands of people come to every year.
Right.
But also it's more, what I wanted, or what I wanted to force onto the town of Speedway was like the Stephen King small town thing.
Right.
And like, that's not what Speedway is. Like, we are 10 minutes away from downtown Indianapolis. It's more a suburb than anything, I guess. So, but what I really found just so remarkable about the story is the way that it paints that small town of Castle Rock, and the way that it paints it through the perspective and the purview or whatever of children that live in that town. Like Chris Chambers, he has a reputation because of his family name, and he lives in Castle Rock, which is very insulated, very small. So his future is almost predetermined, unless he does like an uphill climb, a ridiculous uphill climb to, get out of Castle Rock. And I mean, the same with the other kids. Like there's so many talks, there's so many scenes where Gordy is talking about how Vern and Teddy are they're probably not going to be friends with Gordy when they get to junior high and high school, because they'll run with a different crowd. And it's just that kind of dynamic where it's friends when you don't have the social anxiety of school, the melodramatic school of middle school and high school.
Right.
Like that friendship that forms just because you're all kids who don't know enough about the world or don't know anything. You all know the same amount of stuff.
You don't have prejudices.
Yeah. It's really remarkable how well King wrote that into the story.
It's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah. Yep.
Totally agree. Yeah. So part of when, this is a little tangent, but while I was listening to this,
you were a Three Stooges?
No. I listened to these books almost exclusively in my car during work because I drive a lot for my job, which listeners know that. So I was working in a rural part of our state in southwest Indiana, Greene County.
Okay.
Which I think is probably very similar to Castle County.
Okay.
Fictional Castle County, Maine,
right.
Where you have smallish towns and that's it for the county. There's, the county seat, which would be like Castle Rock, is Linton, 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 Indiana.
Okay.
The whole county probably has, I'd say, 30,000 people in it, maybe 40,000.
Wow.
So it's a small rural county, but there's there's Linton is the main town, and then there's, a handful of other towns around that are within 10, 12 miles of it. And I was like, this is like Castle Rock and I don't even remember the names of the other towns that they're going through in the story, but they're taking the railroad tracks because that connects these small towns together.
Yeah.
And the river connects these small towns together. And I was just driving through that county on like a 1-lane highway while I was listening to this story, and I was like, this is probably pretty similar structurally to what fictional Castle County is like, where these boys were walking through the woods for a couple days to go find a dead body. Like it was an interesting, the word serendipitous has been coming to my mind lately.
Okay.
It was a little bit serendipitous that I was listening to that story while I was working at that location.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
like just the ambiance of that.
The ambiance. It was very ambiance. Yeah.
I love that. Not at all malignant. That I love that. Like I've mentioned many times how much I love to, like if I'm driving a long distance or anything, like if I have to stop to go to the bathroom or something or pick up snacks, I will stop off in some just hole in the wall, like small town.
Yeah.
And it'll just be like, this is a Stephen King story. I'm wandering into a Stephen King story now.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know if that's not derogatory, but I don't know if that's like elitist or classist of the town that I'm wandering through. Because I'm just like, oh, look at the cute little, like, I bet Tiny has a little check-in in here.
Nice.
But it's just that atmosphere, that ambiance. Like when a few years ago, when I interviewed the 5 After 5 productions people, that like Cameron Grimm, who was doing a Dollar Baby for The Man Who Loved Flowers, and I got to go to like where they were filming and everything, and I got to watch them film scenes and everything from it. But they were in Greenfield or Greensburg.
Greenfield.
Was it Greenfield?
Yeah.
Okay. And like that, I mean, holy crap. I mean, that is the quintessential small town indie, like small town Midwestern town. And I'm just like, this is such a Stephen King place.
Totally.
So yeah,
one of my wife's best friends, she lived and worked in Washington, D.C. for several years.
Right.
And worked for like senators. And she talked about like cultural differences between the people that she worked with, who were, some of them were born and raised in Washington, D.C. or like giant cities like Chicago. Well, my wife and her friend, they're from rural Indiana, Portland, Indiana. And they like would ask her like, so what was it like growing up? Like, what did you do on like a Saturday? And she was like, well, we'd like ride our bikes around, and we'd like go down to gas station and get a Polar Pop, and they were like, "What are you even saying? I don't even know what those words mean." And like she was just talking about the culture shock for them and her of the two vastly different upbringings coming together. So yeah,
no wonder the country's all messed up,
right?
But you used to go to the soda shop and get
down to the soda fountain.
Get a double scoop of double chocolate ice cream on top of an ice cream soda, and but there was actually, and this is a quick tangent, there was a documentary that was at Indie Film Fest called Welcome to Monterey. That was really good. It's a very this woman who grew up in this town, Monterey, they have like a Monterey like festival, like a street festival. It's a very small town, and the documentary is just all about that town and the festival and everything. It's just really interesting as a kind of a, maybe not historical document, but a documentation of just this very small town that is barely on any maps, basically. So, I don't know if that'll be streaming anywhere or anything because it's on the festival circuit and everything, but Welcome to Monterey. Just check that out.
Cool.
Okay, so what else can we say in non-spoilers? Because I have a question before we go into spoilers, but I wanted that to be before we go into spoilers.
Yeah, I think we can go into spoilers. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to go into spoilers here in a second, but I do have a question for you, Tiny, in broad terms or kind of as an overview of it. This story was obviously published in 1982, and then in 1986, Stephen King wrote It.
Yeah.
And something that Kim on the Year of Underrated Stephen King mentioned was that it seems kind of like the four characters in the body are kind of like a prototype or like the proto Losers Club, like kind of like the rough draft of what would be the Losers Club. Is kind of how I'm kind of thinking of it.
Yeah.
So my question is, in kind of broad terms, and this is very much weighted way too much on one of them, because I mean we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, but what do you think is the better coming of age story, The Body or It? Bear in mind only one of them has a controversial sewer child sex scene.
Right. You're right, it has an unfair advantage because it's so much longer. It's a 1,100 page book or something.
Right.
But I think one important aspect that differentiates between the two is that the Losers Club had a girl in it.
Oh, yeah.
There's a female perspective there, which, again, there's that controversial scene in It.
Yeah.
But I also think it has despite the controversy and my dislike of that moment in the book, there is a sexual aspect and a romantic aspect to that coming of age tale that I think is missing in The Body, for obvious reasons. There's no girls. There's like hardly any even female characters in the book, or in the story, which is fine. It's not a fault of it. It's just a different aspect, and it's more explored and it's more diverse in it. But I think I relate more to this, although there's a lot of the same themes. They spend that also takes place over the summer, and it's them riding their bikes around and playing and being out in the nature, and it's hot and stuff like that. So it's
both stories have like they have very either absent or adversarial relationships with adults in the stories.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. But yeah, I think, I think it definitely takes the cake, but it doesn't mean that The Body is any less significant or great, really. Because I absolutely adored this story, and the coming of age nature of it was fantastic. So
nice.
But yeah, I'd give the edge to It, but it's got so many other things working in its favor that it's kind of the obvious choice. For all of its
similarities in terms of content and everything, it is kind of apples and oranges
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's kind of switchblades and demonic clowns. So yeah. And then one other thing, and then I'll actually backtrack and say something in non-spoilers, but where would you rather grow up in, Derry or Castle Rock?
Jeez. I guess Castle Rock. I have such a little reference for Castle Rock though.
Yeah.
Because the town in this story, the town doesn't have much of an identity.
That's true. Yeah.
And then in
Needful Things,
yeah. I guess it's, there's obviously the town has an identity and it's explored somewhat, but it's not
as extensive as Chester's Mill, Derry.
Yeah, right.
Or
totally.
Yeah. Any other places.
Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot, yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Chamberlain and Carrie.
Right.
So
I feel like Castle Rock as like the town as a character is so kind of underdeveloped.
Yeah.
It's referenced a lot in a lot of other stories. But it's, I guess, the meaty stories where the stories actually take place in Castle Rock, it's just not, there's not much culture of the town is explored, I guess.
That's true.
There's the whole different season, or not, Needful Things had the whole religious thing, Catholics and Protestant stuff. Like there's some of that, I guess. But
even that felt kind of like set dressing.
Right. And it didn't have like, Castle Rock, I guess, I don't know. I guess in this story, it's presented as more, in the body, it's presented as more of like a blue collar town. Yeah. And the kind of the quote unquote college kids are the exception as opposed to the rule, I guess. Right. Which is something that that's not a notion I really picked up in Needful Things. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess, are there any other big stories that really take place in Castle Rock proper?
There are some short stories that do. Okay. The Sundog. Okay. And some other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like Derry is so much more developed.
I think so too.
And it's a charming town, despite the fact that it's, cursed. Yeah. And whatnot.
And it's bigger too.
It's bigger, right?
They have the barons and all that.
Right. Yeah.
The standpipe.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I would pick Derry, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Derry sans the creature.
Right, yeah. It's funny because whenever I am in the bathroom, most of the time Pizza will go into the bathroom and she'll jump into the tub and she'll just stare at the drain. And then I'll have to not pick her up, but I'll kind of press her side, and then she'll be like, all right, let's go. Or I'll say, as I said to you when we took a break, I'll say like, all right, come on, kitty, let's go. And then as her, I will say, no, but I don't want to, let's go. So
cute.
Anyway, yeah, that's one word. The whole Three Stooges thing is coming into focus really well, isn't it? Anyway, but whenever, recently when she's done that, I've imagined her being like, no, I don't want to get out of the tub. It's telling me that they float down there and stuff.
Oh God.
I want to see what's going on.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. But the final thing I want to say in non-spoilers, and we don't need to go really in depth with this, but there are two kind of breaks in the novella where we get a very large passage of Gordy's writing.
Yes.
And so the first one is this story, this 40s noirish, kind of very aggressively misogynistic and just really, I don't know, story called Stud City. And then we get the story of the blueberry pie eating contest. Mm-hmm. Of these two stories, how did you feel about these two stories in the novella?
So the first one pissed me off because, so not the story or the content, the structure of how it was woven into the body. I thought like I thought that Audible was malfunctioning.
Oh, really?
Because it just goes into the fucking story unprompted. And I was like, what the fuck? And like, I was listening to like 15 minutes of it, and I ended up rewinding because I was like,
wow.
I thought my Audible was malfunctioning and going into some other recording, or I was like, what the hell is this? I was kind of pissed. And so I rewound it and started over. I was like, nope, this is supposed to be happening. All right, what the fuck ever. So I listened to it, and I thought it was an interesting story, and it was it had me interested. I was paying attention. I thought it was disturbing and had some pretty wild themes to it, but I liked the story. And then it got to the end, and I was like, okay, I liked that was in the that was present in the body, and I liked it and everything, but it needed to be woven in much better because it was totally I mean, I guess maybe that's a unique issue to audiobooks, because I think if I had been reading a physical copy of the book, it would have been less jarring, and would have the page breaks maybe and the paragraph breaks would have made it more fluid maybe, but still, I was like, okay, I'm fine with the content and all that stuff. It was just structurally, it didn't work for me, and I was kind of pissed.
As someone who read the paperback the first time I read it, the format is not the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the blueberry pie eating contest, I was fucking laughing my ass off. That is an amazing story.
It's great.
Fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so silly, and the way that it's in the movie is really
I was laughing just
amazing.
as hard in the movie. I thought it was funny.
Oh yeah. With Stud City though, I agree with you. I mean, it is out of nowhere. It is detracting from it, and And this can kind of lead into spoilers here, but when I was listening to it, this is like the second or third time I've heard this story, I've read this story. The second or third time, when that happens, I had like the same thought process as I did when the first time I read it, because I kept thinking like, okay, this is weird. This is out of nowhere. I don't understand. Like, okay, fine. It's King, flexing. I guess he's writing the story. As the kid writing the story. And then throughout the entire thing, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can rationalize this. Maybe I can try to make excuses for King. And like, I kept thinking like, okay, so this is him demonstrating what a 12-year-old writing a story about adults who have sexual relationships and everything and have dramatic lives and everything, what he thinks they are. And then after the story's over, Gordy, as the narrator, is like, "Yeah, I wrote this when I was in college, when I'd only been with like a couple of women, so that's a little weird, and I'm uninformed." I'm like, that doesn't even sound like it doesn't sound like a college student wrote it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a child wrote
Unless he was in a rapey frat,
right? Yeah. And I have a theory about that I'll open our spoiler discussion with it, but I do agree. It wasn't needed, I don't think. And it was just out of nowhere, and it dragged it down so much and served no greater purpose except for the theory that I'm going to posit in the spoiler section, which, do you want to go into spoilers?
Yes, let's go.
All right, so we're going to go into spoilers for The Body, starting now. All right, so spoilers on for The Body, and by extension, Stand By Me. So fair warning, guys. My theory about Stud City, and again, this could just be me making excuses for Steve, but my thought, and when I say this, I'm going to say it with the caveat or the whatever, that even with this theory, it's still completely in the wrong place in the story, completely too long in the story, and it's a lot of mental work for me to reach this conclusion. So my thought is that this hypersexualized, hyper-aggressively misogynistic point of view story is supposed to be in contrast to the innocence of the children, of the story of the body, of them going on their adventure.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be a juxtaposition between, like the subtitle, the fall of innocence. Like it's their pre-fall of innocence to their post, like this is Gordy after he has completely lost his innocence and everything, and he's a more insecure adult. But that's also the thing, is that it reads like an insecure adult who doesn't know his identity. And again, that also kind of feeds into my theory that maybe it's because he lost track or lost touch with his friends as a kid, in that this is King demonstrating to us that Gordy, after his little quartet disbanded as kids, him growing up without that friend group in middle school and high school created a void in personality or a void in identity for Gordy as he got into college and started writing in college. Because my whole theory that I'm bending over backwards to make is that because he didn't have those friends anymore, or he wasn't as close with those friends who built up his imagination and built up his writing prowess, his storytelling prowess. He was writing for them. He was telling stories for them. Because they were absent, he then lost his sense of identity as a writer. And so in college, he is working to try to find his voice. And what comes out is this complete antithesis to childhood Gordy's persona and writing, because he doesn't have that link to his innocence. That's my very roundabout way to rationalize Stud City. And also, if that's the case, it should have been way later in the story.
Yeah.
Like, why is it right up front?
Right.
It's annoying. What do you think about that? Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy at all. I didn't make that much connection to it.
Mhm.
I don't think I tried to rationalize it at all. I just wanted to kind of get away from it.
Yeah. I just want to be friends with Stephen King, so any blemish that he has, I'm going to try to cover with as much makeup of just crazy theories as I can.
Yeah. It's such a toxic story because none of the characters are likable.
Yeah.
None of the occurrences are positive.
Yeah.
It's all very aggressive, and the main character hates his dad and is annoyed by his brother and hates his stepmother and doesn't love his girlfriend or the woman the girl he's hooking up with. It's all so aggressive and vacuous. But again, I was kind of interested in the story. Like, as a story, it's like, wow, what the fuck's going to happen next? But not to say it was a great story or anything, but
right.
But yeah, I think, I don't know if maybe King was trying to downplay the bad parts of the story, but after it's over, Gordy is talking about how, it's not very well written and it's not very well done. It's not a great story. He thinks that maybe there's a good story in there somewhere, and he's thought about rewriting it to make it better. So I don't know if he's maybe trying, if that was an attempt by King to sort of excuse it or write it off.
Yeah.
By Gordy admitting that it's not good. But if that was the case, why even put it in the fucking book?
Yeah. And I think that for me, it's definitely that, like, college age story, like, aspect of it that throws me off so much, because I was trying to figure out how it connected with the greater story, and I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
The best I could do, and I don't remember much of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I remember there being, like, references to the main character's brother dying. And I think, was it because he was on the side of the road or something, and he was changing a tire and died or something?
Right.
And, like, that's why I kept thinking, like, oh, this is 12-year-old Gordy working through the death of his brother, because his parents are, mourning and are ignoring him.
Right.
And then it's just like, oh, I wrote this in college. I'm like, what? Like, what? Why?
Yeah.
So I don't know that, like, it could have been more relevant if it was a present day thing, but then also since it wasn't, it has this other kind of context to it of his loss of innocence. So I don't know. I was just curious what you thought of it, and yeah, I think we kind of landed on the same page with it.
Yeah, it's messy for sure.
Yeah,
and I'm not really sure what King was going for with it.
And I honestly think, and he's done this before, but I honestly wonder, and maybe there's like trivia about this that I didn't look into or anything, but I wonder if he had just a draft of a story, and he's like, you know what, the body needs a couple thousand more, or a few, like 10,000 more words or whatever. Or no, not 10,000 more words. Like a couple thousand more words or whatever. However many words. Let's just throw that in there and say it's a Gordy story, because he's done, like, there's a story in, I think, Skeleton Crew called The Wedding Gig, which is this it's a weird gangster story. And I believe that was like originally like he was writing a story and then kind of abandoned it and then repurposed it as a short story or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's a weird excursion in the story that I wasn't into.
Yeah, it's out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. Since we're in spoilers, what was I going to say? Oh, so and we're also starting to weave in the movie, right?
We can, yeah.
Okay. Well, so this involves the movie and the book, but in the movie, there's a part where they're at they're kind of taking a break at the junkyard, and it's like the only reference to sexuality or sex in the movie where they mention the name of some girl in their class and how she's starting to get tits.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was not in the book, was it?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Huh.
Because there's no, to my knowledge, there's nothing in the book that is even remotely sexual.
Yeah.
As in the boys starting to have sexual desire or feelings or whatever.
Yeah. There's Bite My Bag and
yeah. Your mom sucks my fat one or something like that.
Like, suck my fat one.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, who told you had a fat one?
Right.
The biggest one. Oh man, I was gonna make a joke. Anyway, sorry.
But that's one of the only things to me that's off or inaccurate or a little bit surprising, given how relevant it is, sexuality is in it.
Oh yeah,
because the character is the same age between those two stories.
Right,
they're the same age, 12 years old,
and pretty much the same era. It's both the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
But I think back, obviously this story had me thinking back to when I was 12.
Oh,
tons, which is one of the beautiful aspects of the story and great things about the story. But I remember 12 years old, sex was an important part of it because that's when I started noticing girls a lot more and started getting boners all the time when you're 12. And I feel like sex is starting to become a sexual being is such an integral part of a 12-year-old's life.
Yeah.
And it's like basically absent. It's absent from the from the novella. And I understand that in the context of what these boys are doing, they're going to see a dead body. And that's what's occupying so much of their time. But there's also the great scene in the movie where they're like around the campfire and they're talking about like who'd win in a fight between Mighty Mouse and Superman and shit like that. And I was like, there's no way that they wouldn't have spent so much of that conversation talking about boobs and girls. And I'm not saying it's a discredit to the story. I'm just kind of surprised it wasn't there given how relevant it is in it. And Stephen King never shies away from sex.
Oh, totally.
Ever.
Yeah.
So it kind of, I don't want to say it jumped out to me, but I noticed it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't really register with me that much, but now that you're saying that, that's a really interesting perspective because, it is kind of missing. And like in my head, I'm like, when I was 12, let's see, I was one of the Three Stooges. In 6th grade, I was obsessed with Scream.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. I was starting to become obsessed with girls when I was 12.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, when I was in fifth or sixth grade, I did have a copy of the Scream shooting script that they published. And I passed around to all of my friends the page where Sidney Prescott has sex. And there's like the direction and it says something about her bra.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's that kind of stuff that like, I don't want to say innocent sexual drives of a 12-year-old, but the
curiosity.
Relatively tame.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, once boys become teenagers and they become more aggressive and it's like kind of ridiculous, toxic, stupid, borderline scary sexuality of a teenage boy who's inexperienced and dumb and impulsive and hormones flying through his body.
Yeah.
It's tame and kind of funny. Like, I wonder what her boobs feel like. You know, it's that kind of stuff was absent from the story. But in the movie, there's that one line where they're like, yeah, her tits are starting to come in. And I was like, that's the one thing that I thought was kind of absent or missing. That's
interesting, especially with the time frame and everything. Like you said, when boys grow up and if they don't grow out of that adolescent curiosity and like weird thing and everything, they could become more volatile, more dangerous, borderline dangerous and everything, and like not well adjusted, and then later on they storm the Capitol. So it's a slippery slope, but
oh my God. That makes me think of the picture that our friend Chad sent to us earlier today, where it was like a screenshot of a bunch of protesters. Oh yeah, and like someone had like redesigned the flags and signs they were holding, and one of them just said, "Where's the clitoris?" That's fantastic.
That was great. Yeah, that was really great.
Totally.
So anyway. Okay, so we can talk more about the let's talk about the leeches, and then the ending of the story, and then we can go into the movie real quick. But the leeches scene is like, I mean, it's not a horror story, but like that is like, oh man, just oof. And I don't know if you know this, based on Stephen King's real like experience.
Yes, didn't he mention it? Doesn't that story get mentioned in
On Writing?
On Writing?
I think so. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, just like the testicle part.
Right.
Yep.
And I love how I think it's in the book where it's in the book. Adult Gordy, as he's narrating it, says, as I got older, I realized that while leeches on the, they seem very disturbing and scary, they're actually pretty harmless. And they, after a minute or two, they just kind of drop off because they're too engorged or whatever, or they end up popping, and they're really not, it's not really a
life or death thing.
Right. They seem a lot scarier than they actually are, I guess, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah. But as a kid, you don't know that.
Right. As a 12-year-old, it's fucking terrifying.
Have you ever had leeches on you?
No.
No.
I have not. I'm not a fan of jumping into natural bodies of water.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, the ocean is kind of it. Like lakes, ponds, rivers. Nope, I'm good.
Yep.
I'll enjoy them from a distance.
Yeah, totally.
Because of leeches and eels and snakes and wildlife that live in them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they get to the body. They find the body. They have their big confrontation with Ace Merrill and his gang.
Yep.
How'd you feel about how that played out in the story? And also, God damn it, Chris Chambers, about the milk money and everything.
Yeah.
His whole arc there about how the teacher, took the money that he was trying to give back and how that made his, like, God damn it, River Phoenix in the movie. Fuck.
Yes.
Oh my God. But in the story, just like that, like I kind of alluded to or mentioned earlier, just that level of like not being able to escape who you are because of the town you're in and the reputation your family has is heartbreaking. And the cyclical nature of that inescapable kind of fate that you're born into is just so heavy. And I think it's because it's from the perspective of these kids that are saying it, because I think I started to make this point and then didn't, but like Speedway is not the same as Castle Rock.
Right.
Speedway is not a small town. Like what jumped out to me in this story this time around is that small town of Castle Rock is their life. And that is like they are trapped there unless they work extremely hard to get out of there. And like that idea of their own, like what they will become one day is kind of set in very rapidly drying concrete as they age, is like in and of itself just heartbreaking, dramatic, and a little bit terrifying because of the wasted potential and everything because of this town that they're kind of locked into. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I think I was talking earlier about like Castle Rock doesn't have a great identity.
Right.
I think that story, the whole Milk Money story, gives that town a lot of identity, because I think it demonstrates some attitudes of the residents there, most notably that teacher. Yeah. You know, she just has this idea, well, this kid is, to borrow a phrase from the story in the movie, this kid's a cheap dime store hood. Right. He has no future. Fuck him. I'm just going to throw the blame on him and get what's mine. Get what's mine. Just do something I want to do. So to hell with how it ruins this kid's reputation. Right. He doesn't have a future anyways.
Or damages his psyche, his sense of self-worth.
Right.
Just like, and being an educator and doing that to him is like, it's like outlined. I think it's in the book too, but like in the movie, I mean, River Phoenix is like just heartbreaking scene there. It's just
haunts him.
So incredible.
Right. That's a whole other level of depravity on that teacher's part. Yeah. How it ruins him. His psyche, like you said. But it's such a small part of the book and the movie, but it's so the gravity it has on the story
pivotal.
Is pivotal. It's pivotal. It's monumental. Yeah, it's a huge part of it, but it's such a small part of the story. It's really interesting. Yeah. I think it has more gravity in the movie.
I agree,
because River Phoenix is so fucking good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Plus, Chris is the only one who dies.
In the movie, yeah.
In the movie. Because in the book, and this can be the final thing about the book, and then we can kind of wind down with talking more abstractly about the movie, but in the book, like, Gordy's talking about how they've all died. They've all died in different ways. Right. I think Teddy died in a car accident, Vern died in an apartment fire, and then Chris died in a stabbing. Right. And just like that, I think brings home this idea of this, town kind of machinery, I guess, that they're kind of built into. It's kind of sad and depressing.
Yeah. Again, the culture.
Yeah.
Kind of the culture of the town. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
Do you want to close out the story and go into we can kind of breeze through talk about the movie?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to play a clip from the trailer for Stand By Me. So here we go, and then we'll go into our discussion about Rob Reiner's Stand By Me.
In all our lives, there's a fall from innocence, a time after which we are never the same. It happened in the summer of 1959, a long time ago.
Oh, man! Wait till you hear this! Wait till you hear this! What is it, man? You guys want to go see a dead body?
When the night has come and the land is dark.
We interrupt to bring you an update on the search for the missing 12-year-old Ray Brower.
Kid's gone. They're never gonna find him.
Not where they're looking. And the moon is the only light we'll see.
You think Mighty Mouse could beat up Superman?
Mighty Mouse is a cartoon. Superman is a real guy. No way a cartoon could beat up a real guy.
Okay, and Stand By Me was released in 1986, directed by Rob Reiner, who would go on to direct Misery as well. Two just powerhouse Stephen King adaptations. Yeah. That could not be more different from one another.
Yeah, right.
Pretty amazing. So Tiny, since this was your first time seeing the movie, we're going to go spoilers free and everything, and we can kind of make this kind of brief because I know that we're almost out of time.
Right, fine.
But okay, good. So, so the movie, this was your first time watching it. How'd you feel about it, and how'd you feel kind of about Stand By Me?
I really loved it. Absolutely loved the movie. I figured I would. I think the movie hinges so much on the performance of the kids.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't have, you needed four Haley Joel Osment and The Sixth Sense kind of performances to pull this movie off.
Yes.
Because I've said it more in Obsessive Viewer than this podcast, but child actors largely suck.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault.
Right.
They're supposed to suck. They're kids.
Yeah.
I think when a kid, and by kid I mean under the age of 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
When a kid puts in a great performance, in my opinion, it is so much more impressive than any adult giving an incredible performance, because you don't know anything when you're a kid. You know, it's part of the theme of this story that you're innocent. You don't know things. You're not supposed to know things.
You're innocent until proven guilty.
Right. Nice. You're not supposed to be able to put in a good performance, and it just amazes me when kids pull it off. And all four of the main kids in this movie did a fantastic job.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's the most noteworthy thing of the movie. That's what I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember the heart-to-heart conversations that Will Wheaton and River Phoenix have in this story. Gordy and Chris, the conversation they have, the heart-to-hearts are just amazing.
Oh,
and they're well written. They're well acted.
Yeah.
I love the very just subtle camera work of just letting those two kids do their thing, give amazing performances. I do think the standout is River Phoenix.
Oh yeah,
but I have like no frame of reference for Will Wheaton.
Oh, interesting.
Other than The Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah,
I think that's the only thing I've seen him in.
Wow,
I really can't. Well, he did like a web series with what's her name?
Felicia Day.
Felicia Day.
Yeah,
I saw him in that.
The Guild.
The Guild.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him in that. But he's fine in Will Wheaton is fine in Big Bang Theory.
Right.
He's playing a version of himself. He's fine. I wasn't impressed or underwhelmed by him or anything. Like he was fine.
Right.
But I was really pleasantly surprised by how good he was in this. He did a fantastic job. There's a joke in The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon gets drunk and he has an interaction with Will Wheaton and he just kind of blurts out, he's like, "You were so good in Stand By Me." And I had no frame of reference for that joke because I had never seen the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a joke. He's fucking great in this.
Oh,
I loved him in this. And I'm so glad to say that. Because he was great. He totally hung in there with River Phoenix and totally had a great back and forth with him in so many scenes.
Absolutely.
And I really love Corey Feldman. I think he's kind of I don't want to say a meme, but he's kind of a punchline, or he has this persona in Hollywood because he's a very odd man, and he was so famous. He's kind of an example of how being a famous kid can kind of ruin you as an adult and make you kind of a weird person, I guess. But he was a damn good actor as a kid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's got so much charisma, and he can just he's funny, really funny kid. And I'm talking about like Goonies and what's the vampire one?
Fright Night? No, Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Yes,
also with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
He's just a great actor. He's such a funny kid. He's got so much charm and charisma. And not to forget Chris O'Connell.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know where Chris. That's Batman and Robin.
I think you're thinking of Chris O'Donnell.
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Jerry O'Connell.
O'Connell.
Great as like the kid who never shuts the fuck up.
Yeah.
And is just
kind
of annoying, but you keep him around because you can make fun of him kind of guy.
Yeah.
The kids were just so damn good in this movie.
Absolutely. And to talk about Corey Feldman, first of all, yes. And also it's worth noting that Teddy Duchamp, he is, I mean, the characters are so well drawn and they're so specific and they're so unique outside of each other. But Teddy is arguably the most tragic and has the darkest backstory.
Right.
And like the way Corey Feldman handles that is remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like I mean, yes, it is so he has this, I don't know. I don't want to get into all of this, but he like has said that he was abused as a kid in Hollywood, which is horrible, horrifying, terrible. And, you know, like that clip of Barbara Walters that went viral where he's like on like The View or whatever she's on. And he said, he's talking about like telling all about the abuse and everything. And then I think Barbara Walters says something like, aren't you worried that you're ruining people's careers with this? And it's like, okay, you are a monster.
Yeah.
So like I recognize and understand that he's, you know, a troubled person because of his history. But like also he had that whole thing where he was promoting this documentary that was going to out so many different people in Hollywood. And then he did that very weird, like live stream performance thing.
Yeah.
That was clearly like a grift to get money from people that wanted to see it. And it was just really awkward.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's a shame because I mean it's just a product of predatory Hollywood, you know, with child actors.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a tangent, but the performances are amazing. River Phoenix as Chris Chambers. The last couple of times I've watched this movie, it is incredibly painful to think of like the tragedy of his death. Because God damn it,
what a loss to the acting community.
I mean, he was just so good. And I mean, I can't, like, there was a meme going around on Twitter that was like, if you could have
I saw this.
Any artist who died prematurely, if you could have 50 more years of them, if you bring them back for 50 more years of art that they could create, who would it be? And like my go-to was Anton Yelchin. Like just Anton Yelchin.
Great choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also River Phoenix, because holy shit.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think one thing I wanted to touch on, the movie does some things better than the book.
Okay.
At least in my opinion, I should say. One of them was Gordy. He's, first of all, I think all four of the kids, I'm struggling to think of how it is for Vern, but all four of the kids are damaged or suffering in some way.
Yeah.
You know, Gordy, his brother died and his parents are kind of checked out as far as raising him.
Right.
Chris has an alcoholic father who kind of abuses him. Teddy has the father who damn near killed him,
right,
and is in an asylum right now. Vern, what is there something about him that
I think that he is more? It's demonstrated like he's on the slow side. He's learning disabled. He's a little bit slow.
Okay,
that's kind of evident by the whole buried pennies and not being able to find it. And his relationship with his brother isn't that great.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of his kind of thing.
Okay. That didn't jump out to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. But now that you say that makes sense. So all four of the kids are damaged in some way, or they're, suffering. I like how it was kind of expanded more in the movie that, Gordy has this kind of complex where it's kind of like, what's it called? Survivor's guilt, I guess, because his brother's gone, and he has these feelings that his dad thinks it should have been him who died and not his brother. And
that just makes me think of Walk Hard.
Walk Hard, wrong kid died. Yeah, totally. Every time I have, anytime, I totally had the same thought. But that's not as present in the book, that his dad, he thinks his dad has that opinion that he should have died, not his brother. Right,
because in the book, and it's also in the movie as well, to a lesser extent, but in the book, it's more that his creativity, his impulse to write is something that his father is very much against and bullying about. Which leads to that really great scene in the movie where John Cusack in the flashback is like, "Hey, I really like that story, Gordy."
And that's not present in the book. Like, that's not in the book. Which,
because there's there's no flashbacks to Denny.
Right. Denny's like not really a character in the book at all. So I thought that was really well done in the movie, and I liked those flashback scenes. I liked the John Cusack playing the Denny character. And that was, it made Gordy more deep, more depth to his character, and I think he was more troubled in the movie than he was in the book, and I appreciated that more.
Yeah, I can definitely get on board with that and agree with that.
Yeah.
What did you think of Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, he, man, just visually, I just love his look in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Totally, like the cheap dime store hood type thing that you brought up earlier.
Right.
That he just fits that so well. And I think young Kiefer Sutherland was his look was just so perfect for so many roles. Like, I think that peaked in The Lost Boys, where he had that.
It's been so long since I've seen The Lost Boys.
Which I like that movie. It's a fun movie, but I just think the pop culture of that movie is bigger than the movie itself, I guess.
Yeah.
It's an okay movie, but it's just, it had both the Coreys in it and Kiefer Sutherland playing that. I love that pompadour mullet haircut he has in that movie.
Yeah.
And he's just such an over-the-top vampire character. I love him in that movie, and I think that's something that he's really gotten away from in his older years, playing Jack Bauer and shit like that. Like, he's very much more subdued and not as visually present, I guess, or not as much of a visual presence as he was when he was younger. This is totally one of those roles, him playing Ace Merrill.
Yeah. That's something that I found really kind of surprising, because not surprising. Okay, so I've seen this movie a handful of times through my life, and I've seen Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer more times than I've seen him as Ace Merrill.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I revisit Stand By Me, I just have it in my head that he's more aggressive, that he's more like energetic and everything. Because Jack Bauer is the damn it, Chloe,
right?
Help me get off of this DUI charge. Where's the bomb? Jaeger bomb. Anyway, so. He also tackled a Christmas tree.
Right.
But anyway, but then when you see him in Stand By Me, it is a more quiet intensity. And I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Like when he takes the switchblade out and he's like, "You're dead."
Yeah.
It's not like a "You're dead, Chloe." Mm-hmm. It's just like, "You're dead." And it's just so plainly spoken and just so like you believe it. Yeah.
He exemplified very well a young man who is full of nothing but bad thoughts, and negative thoughts, and just completely on the wrong path in life.
Yeah.
And it's so evident as him as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid.
Right.
He played that part really well. I love it. And I just can't, the visual of him in that bleach blonde hair with the engineer boots and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth is just iconic to me.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. I love Kiefer Sutherland in that look. Yeah.
Something I loved about the movie in regards to Ace Merrill is that scene where he plays chicken with the truck. And like he does, like he's complete, like he does not move at all. Like he does not move.
Right.
And they swerve and like the back comes undone and everything for the truck and everything. And then he's just like, I won. And I just love that. I kind of wish that was earlier in the movie because it sets up so well that showdown between Gordy and him over the body, where Gordy has the gun on him and he's trying to say like, hey, just give me the gun, Chloe. But in he backs down on that. It's just that juxtaposition is really fun.
Right. I kind of wish the scene in the book where Ace and I think it's Vern's older brother they jump. Eyeball, yeah. Or is it Chris's older brother?
It might be Eyeball Chambers.
Yeah. So I think it's Chris's older brother. They jump Gordy in the street and beat shit out of him. I kind of wish that was in the movie. I do love the ending of the movie where they separate paths and that's just really beautiful. I love the ending of the movie, but I do kind of wish that scene was in the movie and how Gordy kind of kept his mouth shut and everything about why he was being jumped. I thought that was pretty cool, but I think it would have been difficult to weave into the movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Given the structure of it. Just to see Kiefer Sutherland go full intensity and actually beat shit out of somebody would have been cool.
Yeah. That whole thing with Gordy not saying who it was, that's kind of playing on that kind of toxic masculinity, that kind of that culture of like that, but also kind of thing.
Also a loss of innocence though, because I think when you're a kid, you're a little shit tattletale. Like he did this, he poked me. Yeah, he doesn't do that because he has come of age and he's not a rat or whatever. Yeah, but I do agree there is a kind of a toxic masculinity aspect to it.
Yeah. Also, when I was listening to that, I was just like, yeah, that's a tough position. Okay, because if he says like, "Oh yeah, it was Ace Merrill and his gang," like he'll just get it worse.
Right.
Yeah. It's America, man. Yeah. So that final scene, with it being your first time seeing this movie, Tiny, when Richard Dreyfuss is typing away and it ends with his kids coming in and saying like, "Oh, hey, you said it was a half hour ago." And then he types that last line. Just how did you feel? That last line being, let me find it real quick. This will not take long, I swear.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Something along the lines of, does anybody have friends as great as they did when they were 12? Yeah. Something along those lines.
Yes. Okay. I never had any friends later on like the ones I had when I was 12. Jesus, does anyone?
Anybody? Yeah.
Like, how did you feel about that?
I thought it was great. Again, it's kind of so true because those emotions and those the coming of age is something it's something you never do again, and it's something you share with your friends, and I guess the friends you have when you go through that. You never have friends like that again. Right. And that's I feel like that's kind of universal. I'm sure there's people out there who didn't maybe have that experience, but I feel like it's your little Three Stooges story. Yeah. Like, that's totally like a totally unique thing, and that's your coming of age story.
Oh, yeah. And there's many others that will never be recorded.
Right. But those two friends that you did that with, you've never had other friends like that, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that's such a beautiful universal set of sentences there that I thought was awesome. It's those exact words are not in the book, right?
I I think that they are, that final line from the thing.
Is it? Yeah.
It is, but it's like midway through the story.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's like kind of not a throwaway thing, but it's just like a Gordy saying that kind of at the end of like at the midway point.
Okay, gotcha.
And to that point about like, never having that kind of Three Stooges thing and everything. Mm-hmm. You and I have known each other since junior high. I have pitched so hard for a Laurel and Hardy thing, and you have been not receptive to it for like 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sticking to it.
Yeah. God damn it. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that final line, that final ending moment is just so beautifully encapsulates everything. And to your point about like, yes, that the idea of us not having that same level of friendship or that level of closeness mm-hmm. as we do when we are, as we are growing up at probably our most vulnerable, mm-hmm. because this is when we're learning things. This is when our bodies are changing. And
right.
It's like, it's when you come of age with someone that is also coming of age and you are learning all of these things. This is a level of vulnerability that, I mean, following that through the teen years, you are, at least in my experience, a just crippled ball of insecurities, second guessing, social dynamics, drama, melodrama, live journals. It's like, it is a lot. And that innocence of just going through what is ultimately a life-defining, in certain respects, experience with people that are going through that the same way. It's like the strength of that can grow in that is just undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. It's an idyllic line.
Yeah. Yep.
Totally.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've sufficiently talked it out.
Yeah, we have.
Later this year, I think we're going to do a top 19 adaptations episode. I'm very curious where this is going to land on yours, mm-hmm. but I do have a couple of quick Stephen King references and notes, one of which I'm very excited to share with you because, well, no, I really only have one because we talked about at least on Patreon, the Family Guy thing, but there is an interesting... And there's no reason why you would remember this.
Okay.
But Kiefer Sutherland was on 24.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that this is such an interesting and fun reference to Stand By Me in 24. But there was a CTU analyst played by Eric Balfour. In season 1, and then he came back in season 7 because they needed more characters to kill off or something. But do you remember his character's name?
No.
Yeah, there's no reason why you should.
Okay.
But the character's name was Milo Pressman.
Oh.
Who owned the junkyard in Stanley.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
No shit.
Yep. And
that's funny.
I always think that is just that's neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Kind of unexpected too.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I think that's our episode on The Body. Stand By Me.
Ironically, my voice is starting to crack.
Oh, nice.
Kind of losing my voice.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I want to be a Three Stooge.
Yeah, I'm getting boners.
Yeah. But okay, so that's our episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I think next time we're going to try to tackle Creepshow in various forms and everything. So look forward to that. Once again, check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And do we have any parting thoughts, or should I play us out?
Put a bow on it.
All right. Well, I already went through all the spiel. Once again, check out Red Screen if it's still available, and check out my free Patreon review at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and click the tag Stephen King, and if you pledge on Patreon, you get access to all of that at whatever levels. So thank you guys so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
And may you have twice the number.
And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy.
I don't know. I've been meaning to sit down and like look through his entire bibliography,
Right.
and just like pick a couple things and like buy the books and just have them on deck and like just go through those. But I also want to like have things planned for the podcast too.
Sure.
So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you've been meaning to sit down and look at his entire bibliography.
Yeah.
That is implying that you don't do that like once per day.
That would be correct.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's not too out of the ordinary.
Plus I need to like...
Tower Junkies is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to towerjunkiespod.com/archive. You can also like our Facebook page at facebook.com/towerjunkiespod and follow us on Twitter at towerjunkiespod. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is just a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at towerjunkiespod.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberinirvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find our flagship movie and TV review and discussion show, The Obsessive Viewer Podcast, at obsessiveviewer.com and on Twitter at obsessiveviewer. You can also find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and OVAnthologyPod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. Music for the podcast is provided with permission from Fingers T on YouTube. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
Kitty!